When we walked into the restaurant that night, it wasn't supposed to feel like a test. It was our anniversary dinner, 8 years of marriage, or at least that's what the calendar said. The hostess smiled, guided us to a corner table near the window, and as I pulled out her chair, I noticed how she didn't even look at me. Her eyes stayed on her phone, fingers tapping away like I wasn't there. I tried to ignore it. I told myself maybe she was answering a message from work, maybe something urgent. But deep down, I already knew. That hollow space between us had been growing for months, and that night, it finally found a voice. When the waiter came by, I reached for her hand under the table, like I'd done so many times before. Just a small gesture, something to remind her we were still us. But she flinched, pulled her hand away sharply, and whispered through gritted teeth, "Don't. Not here." I blinked, confused. "What?" She leaned closer, her perfume mixing with the sharp scent of wine. "Don't hold my hand," she said, her tone low and controlled. "Don't let them think we're a couple." Took me a second to process the words. The them she was talking about, her colleagues, sitting a few tables away. A group of people from her office I'd never met but heard plenty about. Especially him, Daniel, the new project manager, the guy she suddenly started dressing up for. I looked over and saw them laughing, clinking glasses, throwing glances in our direction. One of them waved, and my wife smiled back. That kind of smile I hadn't seen in months. "Is this a joke?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed, rolled her eyes. "Please don't make a scene, Adam. You always do this." "Always do what?" "Try to hold my wife's hand? Try to feel like a husband instead of an accessory she forgot to return?" The waiter arrived with our drinks, breaking the silence. She instantly brightened, laughing too loudly at something trivial, performing happiness for people who didn't even care. And I sat there, watching her become someone else. Polished, charming, free. A version of her I hadn't seen in years, but one she clearly didn't want me to be part of. Halfway through dinner, she excused herself to say hi to the team. I watched as she walked straight to their table, greeted Daniel with a hug that lasted a little too long. He whispered something into her ear, and she laughed, that effortless, youthful sound that once belonged to us. When she came back, I asked quietly, "You embarrassed to be seen with me?" She hesitated, her eyes darting away. "You wouldn't understand, Adam. It's just complicated. Office dynamics, perceptions, whatever." But I did understand. I understood everything she didn't have the courage to say. The rest of the meal was silent. I ate because leaving would have felt like admitting defeat, and she scrolled through her phone because that's what she did best. Escape. On the drive home, she turned the radio on to avoid conversation. I watched the city lights reflect off her face, that same face I used to trace with my fingers before she started pulling away. When we reached home, she got out of the car without waiting for me, walked straight inside, and locked herself in the bedroom. I sat in the dark living room for hours, the echo of her words repeating in my head, "Don't let them think we're a couple." And somewhere between midnight and morning, something inside me finally cracked. Not loud, not violent, just a quiet realization that maybe she already wasn't mine. The next morning, the house felt heavier than usual. She moved around like I wasn't there. Coffee brewing, cabinets closing, the faint sound of heels tapping across the floor. She was humming, as if last night hadn't happened. "Morning," I said, testing the waters. She didn't look up. "Morning," she replied, flatly, eyes on her phone again. I wanted to ask her why she said what she did, why she looked at me like I was an inconvenience instead of her husband, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I drove to work, pretending everything was fine. I replayed her words all day, every meeting, every lunch break. By the time I came home that evening, I decided I needed the truth, even if it shattered everything. When I walked through the door, she was on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. The kind of laugh that used to belong to me. "Who's that?" I asked, calm but direct. She glanced up. "Just a friend. Daniel." Her silence answered for her. I sat down across from her. "You know what hurts most?" Not the thought that you might have cheated. It's realizing you already stopped being mine long before that. She sighed, putting the phone down. Adam, please don't make this dramatic. You've been distant for months. I laughed. A hollow, bitter sound I didn't recognize. You pulled away every time I reached for you. You froze me out, piece by piece, and now you're telling me I've been distant. Her lips tightened. You don't get it. I don't feel that connection anymore. And Daniel... She stopped herself, too late. I leaned back. Daniel what? She rubbed her temples. He listens. He makes me feel seen. You're always serious, always quiet, always there, but not there. The irony hit me so hard I almost laughed again. You want to talk about being seen? I've been invisible in this marriage for a year. You just didn't notice because you stopped looking. She didn't reply. Her phone buzzed again, and I watched her hesitate before flipping it face down. Something in me settled then. A strange calm. You know what, Olivia? You don't have to pretend anymore. If you're done, just say it. Stop killing us slowly. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't the kind that begged forgiveness. They were the kind that confirmed the truth. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. Yeah, I said quietly. No one ever does. I stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out a small suitcase. She watched me wide-eyed as I started folding shirts, not out of anger but out of clarity. Adam, where are you going? Somewhere I can still hold someone's hand without being told to hide it. She didn't stop me. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she knew that the version of me who would have stayed, who would have begged, reasoned, tried to fix it, didn't exist anymore. As I walked out the door, I heard her start to cry. For a second, I almost turned back. But then I remembered that restaurant. Her flinch, her whisper, the look of disgust when I reached for her, and I kept walking. I didn't check my phone that night, didn't call anyone. I drove to the small cabin near the lake where we used to go during better years. It was quiet, untouched by the chaos we'd become. The next morning, sunlight cut through the curtains, and for the first time in months, I felt something simple: peace. I made coffee, watched the water ripple outside, and realized I didn't hate her. I just couldn't keep loving someone who didn't want to be seen beside me. A week later, a text from her appeared. I'm sorry. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. I typed a reply, then erased it. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes, love doesn't end with shouting or betrayal. It dies quietly, the moment someone decides your presence is something to hide. And once that happens, there's no fixing it. Only learning to let go of the hand that no longer reaches back.